All right, everyone, welcome to the Sports Aces podcast. I'm doing the intro today a little bit different. Chris is in the back. All right, who we got here,
Hey,
Anthony?
Got Ant to your right.
And special guest, Coach Jessica Mannetti. How are we doing today?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, you want to kick it off for us?
oh man, where do I start? So, Coach Mannetti, the first question I got on my mind is, when it comes to your outfits on the sidelines, do you have like a separate meeting with your coaching staff, like throughout the week? Like, hey, we're gonna have a team meeting with the team, but we're gonna have a separate meeting so we can discuss our outfits. What colors are we feeling this week or whatnot?
It's funny. I get asked this question more often than I thought I would. No, we don't plan it out. We all have our own cute little sense of style, I think, and we all are kind of married to the same colors we love. Usually it's red, white, or black, and then with some colors thrown in here or there. But no, we don't coordinate. I know a lot of coaches have gone along that route of dressing down a little bit. I'm not a big dress down type of coach on the sideline, and my staff polishes up very nicely. So I think we just kind of get each other's vibe and like to show our sense of style.
Oh, that's cool. My first question is about your time with the Knicks, being a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
I just got to ask, what was that like being around, these high-profile athletes and then these big-name coaches?
So I got connected with the Knicks through John Dwinell. He was a men's head coach at Concordia where I played, and he was boys with Jeff Van Gundy at the
I'll
time.
do it.
So that connected me into the internship opportunity with the Knicks,
Mhm.
and it exposed me to a much higher level of sport management, right? The behind the scenes running of how the organization worked. And that happened to be the year they were in the Eastern Conference playoffs. I was like on the baseline where Reggie Miller came off the stagger screens and banged those 2 threes and ended our
Tough time.
hopes and dreams, unfortunately. But it was a really cool experience, and it got me into sport management and kind of directed me back to this place where I knew I wanted to coach, right? I was one of the first women that were ever allowed in the draft room the night of the draft and all the prep that led up to it. So it got me a really cool taste of what professional sports is like. And then it really kind of pushed me back into that coaching realm where I wanted to be on court with players, and it was amazing though. Like, oh my gosh, these grown men being so good at what they do is just, I was like in awe at 21 years old. It's pretty cool.
I'm actually going off that draft. I'm actually really curious. What is it like in a draft room? I've always wanted to know.
So it's really interesting. It's like twofold, right? Because there's so much prep that leads up to it. Like as an intern, I had to have, the team that we worked with had to have like 40 books, binders made for these GMs and coaches to have to make decisions like on the fly because everything changes so fast.
Yeah.
And the phone, it's exactly what you think it is. The phones are ringing off the hooks. There's wheeling and dealing, and you're trying to figure out, like, you only get 2 picks, right?
Yeah.
And it
it's
depends on
crazy.
the picks you have. Like we had a first and a second round draft pick that year. So I just remember the prep that led up to it was like all day long. And then you're in the draft room and it's everything you
awesome.
can imagine.
It's
Like,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there, like looking at what's going on and seeing these game time decisions happen in real time and seeing who they pick and how they fit. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, definitely, because like I know a lot of teams, like they go in there and they're like they have like players that they know what they have a list, but like obviously like it doesn't ever really work out in their favor.
No.
Yeah.
They were like the players that they wanted, I remember, were off the table very quickly. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what's next? You know?
That's
Who
all.
did,
That's
who did we end up
awesome
picking that
environment.
year?
I wish I could remember. I don't even remember. We have to
So-
go back and look at year 2000 draft.
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
So, Coach, you did say you went to Concordia College. Did you play any other sports besides basketball?
I did. I was a 3-sport scholarship athlete. I was
Ooh.
basketball, volleyball, softball at the Division II level. And I actually ended with just 2 sports, basketball and volleyball. But basketball was my one true love. And I had the best experience there. It was Division II, so it helped me balance a little bit of fun time living right outside New York City and
That's awesome.
having a good college experience. So yeah, I was a multi-sport athlete through college.
I was going to follow that up. So you did play the 3 sports, and I found out you were also the team manager for men's basketball. Is that true? Where did you find the time to have, a
none.
social life,
None.
schooling?
A lot of not sleeping. But the men's manager position. So originally, I knew I wanted to coach since I was 15. In high school, I worked my first camp, and I was like, oh my God, this is it, right? So I get to college and I'm playing, but I'm like, how can I get involved in coaching? So I meet John Dwinell, the men's head coach, And we kind of hit it off. And he's like, Mannetti, look, let me get you hooked up on this men's side a little bit. I want to introduce you to some people, get you exposed to some things on the men's side. I wanted to be the first woman to ever coach college men's basketball. That was my track. So he got me hooked up with 5-star basketball. He got me hooked up with the Knicks. So he put me on this great track, and I worked my butt off for him to make sure that like I could learn as much as I could. So I think that was kind of a foot in the door to get me to where I am today, but it was a really cool experience. No time. I mean, I'd practice 5:45 every morning for basketball. Oh. I'd have class. I had volleyball practice from like 3 to 6. I'd eat, maybe take a quick nap, and then go to workouts for softball, and then stay up obviously until like 1 a.m. with my friends, and then it was like a series of naps throughout the day to catch up. But once I minimized to 2 sports, it became a little easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
That's impressive, honestly.
You guys are young though. Like when you're young, you're like a machine, right? Like
True.
you could like pop a Red Bull and just keep it moving. You know
That's
what I mean?
true. This is true.
So when you're older, you need the recovery and rest. I think when you're younger, you're just like so resilient, and it's a little FOMO, right? You never want to miss out on things.
It's true.
That's very true.
So following up with that question, during college, which sport did you enjoy playing the most? Obviously, you wanted to coach basketball. Is basketball the one you enjoyed playing too, or maybe like softball and volleyball better?
So basketball was my one true love. So it's a loaded question, and I'll tell you why. I was weirdly good at volleyball, and I didn't have to work as hard. Like I was just kind of good at it.
Just natural.
Natural. Yeah. Like I was like, and it was relaxing for me because it was fun, and I was kind of good at it. And it like win or loss. Like I'm a competitor, so I wanted to win, but it wasn't like tied to my like heartstrings, I think.
Sure.
Whereas basketball, like I love basketball.
Yeah.
I put so much pressure on myself to be good, to not make mistakes, to lead our team to win. So I think I loved playing both, but for different reasons, right? I love the pressure of the performance and the heart tied to the basketball piece. But for volleyball, I was like, this is so fun, and it's kind of girly, and I get to like not have to bang with kids under the rim or like be so physical. So I just think there was a great balance to that experience with both.
For college or basketball, what did you play? What positions?
Gosh, in high school, I was like a 4. I was like a power forward in high school, right? Because I was like one of the bigger players on my team. I got to college, I became kind of a 2-3 combo guard.
What is that adjustment like though? Because you're playing power forward and then going to guard.
Yeah, it was great. I wanted nothing to do with being a power forward in high school. So
I mean, hey, that works out then.
I was like, let me just stand behind the screen and shoot, like, you know. So I enjoyed it because I was matched up with players that were like my size in college, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot in college. I think the level, the strength, the speed, the IQ is so different. And so I think when I got to college, I was like, this is really more my true position. But I'll play anywhere. I mean, you know, you got to be a little versatile. Where do you play? Do you guys play?
I do play, actually. It's not like anything crazy. I just play like rec leagues.
Yeah.
I'm like one of the taller players on my team, which kind of sucks because I'm used to playing guard.
Yeah.
So it's a little difficult.
You get it.
So it's but it's the opposite of what you did. Yeah. I'm now down low instead of being up top, which I prefer, but it is what it is.
I feel you.
It's fun though.
It's fun.
I love basketball so much. So it's like, but I was never good enough to get to the next level, which kind of sucked because I always wanted to play.
Yeah. That's all right. Basketball's like a lifelong sport, right?
It is, yeah. You can play it, yeah. You can play pickup no matter what. Yeah.
It's good exercise too.
For sure.
I'll tell you what, those Sunday morning rec leagues at the Y that I watch these guys play, like they're good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, whoa, like, where are we playing? What are we doing? Like,
it's physical though.
It's physical.
They'll like tackle you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You just get hit with like a blindside NFL tackle. You're like, buddy, we're playing at the Y here. Like,
no, it does happen. I mean, just this weekend I was playing and I jammed my finger. So
you did?
It gets intense.
It does.
It really does.
All this life, man.
It is.
Right.
It really is. Now that it's nice out, I can go outside and play. It's so much fun.
You like have these like 65-year-old men calling fadeaway jumpers off the glass. They're like, glass. You're like, oh my God, who are you? Yeah, they get after it.
I did notice, I think I do notice about like the older guys that play is they have such high IQ for the game. Their passing is just like, okay, all right.
So smart, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't guard him because he's just going to find the guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right,
It's like
step back.
If I knew then what I know now, right?
Exactly.
So before we go any further, we have to give a shout out to Allison that's to the left of me.
Oh,
she's the sports information director for the women's basketball team. You see on the camera. But Coach Mannetti, do you have any siblings? And then if you do have any siblings, did y'all have like any like competition in the household where you guys had to fight every time y'all play against each other in sports?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. right? So it's me,
Oh, wow.
my middle sister, who's
Intense
2
battles.
years. You could turn walking upstairs into a race in my house.
Yeah.
Bloody noses, scraped knees, elbows to the face. Like we fought I remember my sister gave me a bloody nose because we were fighting over a hula hoop one day. Like, like physical. And they were all really, really good at different things too, competitively. Like my middle sister was an All-American soccer player. She was so talented at a really young age and was getting recruited pretty highly by the time she was in high school. My youngest sister, unbelievable dancer, very good natural athlete. I think she excelled the most in soccer and softball. So like we were all highly competitive. And my father was definitely fueling our fire in that competition. I'm quite certain when I was born, he wanted me to be a boy. So I think he raised me very athletic. He taught me to bat lefty so I could have a higher advantage against right-handed pitchers when I was like 6 years old. I'm not kidding. He's like, you're gonna be a lefty.
Tactical.
Right. Like he was like this, you're gonna play. And he made me play baseball. I didn't play softball till I got into high school.
There was a girl in my baseball league who played till we were in high school, and she went to softball and went like All-American.
Right. So like he no joke with that.
It gives you an advantage.
Huge advantage.
Yeah.
And my mother was like our best cheerleader, and we used to make my father lay off sometimes when he would get too intense. But we had a great family dynamic, and we're still competitive to this day, a little older now, and they all have kids, and so it's fun to see us on the sidelines like rooting for the kid, like come on, go shoot it. And my sister's like, she's 7, relax. Sorry. Yeah, but it's a really fun family growing up with lots of competitive athletes in it.
Did they ever ask you to come coach their kids?
No, you know what, I try to stay so separate from coaching anybody I love, because that could go bad quickly.
Yeah,
and so
it really can.
You know, I mean, think about like if a parent had to coach you, or like your favorite aunt or uncle had to coach you.
Yeah, that's why when I told my parents when I want to play sports, I was like, just watch. I don't want you coaching me because it's gonna cause problems in the house. Like,
Well, it does.
you took me out of the game.
It does.
You took me out of the game when I was doing this, or you took me out of the game. And I'm like, just stay over there.
Yeah,
It's fine.
I dealt with that because, I used to coach 13, 14-year-old football, and the amount of coaches that I see, like fathers coaching their sons, I'm like, I can't. They teaching me now. I'm not coaching my kids when they get older because that's a no-go.
Someone else's problem.
I'll help my kid like get there, but I don't want to be the guy that coaches him. Like, I don't think that'd be for me. Just because it's caused too many problems. I don't know.
Well, you know what else I see too, from being on that other side? I see how people talk about the coaches.
Oh yeah.
And
that is true.
That's really eye-opening to me because I'm never in the stands unless I'm watching like a family member's game. And I try to stay really far removed from like hearing everybody's opinion. Like, because if a parent is volunteering their time to coach and I'm kind of watching what's going on and this other parent is criticized, I'm like, come on, like just give them a break. Like they're doing the best they can. Just let it be. So I think I try to just keep that part of my life here and enjoy it everywhere else.
So getting into coaching, obviously this year you guys had a fantastic year. At what point in this season did you realize, this team is special, we're going to go places?
Well,
and before you answer, I'm gonna be the first person to say this. I'll be the first person to admit this. In the non-conference games, I was a little worried. I was a little concerned.
To be fair, they had some tough opponents.
Yeah, they had some tough opponents, but I knew going to the conference, I was like, they might win the conference because, a lot of teams last year, they was dominant, but they lost a lot of key people in a lot of teams. So I was like, okay, maybe we can make a run. And then they start off 3-0. I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I start seeing that every games they was winning. I'm like, oh, man, it's getting crazier.
Yeah, the non-conference piece, there was a lot of doubt, right? Like we lost 4 out of 5 of our leading scorers from the year before, returned 1.5 players that had in-game experience. I recruited freshmen transfers who ended up being our primary players, right? Like we just, non-conference, we're trying to figure it out. We had a lot of trial and error. We just couldn't get it together. We were a little disconnected. We didn't have great team positivity. I think we really were struggling. And I named my point guard, who, as you know, is so special. I named her captain 5 games in. that started to shift the environment, because I think we were searching for a long time for somebody that we needed to follow.
Like a leader, yeah.
A lot of people wanted to lead, some people wanted to follow here, and some people wanted to follow here. The one person they all rallied behind, though, was Nye. And as a freshman, I was like, you know what? We're just going to name her the solo captain. Let's figure it out. I'll help her and support her. And her teammates love her. And I think that's where I started to see a shift. And we had a great game against FAU down in Florida over Thanksgiving. And then we came back, we beat Fairfield. And then we still lost a couple of close ones. But I think we started to see like, okay, when the going gets tough, like we got to stay together. Hey, let's use these experiences that had failure and turn them into these great lessons where we can now turn them into successes. Like, and I think we were headed down the right path. We get to Christmas, they go home. Here's the great thing about Christmas break. I always promise my players Christmas. So I take them away for Thanksgiving. I always promise them Christmas, and they need that time with their families.
Yeah.
They need to go home. They need to like be loved unconditionally and not feel like such pressure all the time. So when conference starts back up, we got to bye the first round. And I said, let me schedule a Division II team that I think could compete, like is pretty competitive, just to get our legs back before we start in conference. And they were so hyped to play this team, and everybody did so well. I think that was a big turning point where like that propelled us into this new mindset of like, hey, it's new year, 0-0, conference slate is in front of us. Like, what do we want to do? And I think from that point, that's when we started to really discover, oh, we could be pretty good. And our freshmen had that in-game experience. Our transfers were starting to heat up a little bit. Like, we added value with some depth, and boom, all of a sudden we just kind of caught fire. And I think especially like in February, you catch lightning in that bottle, forget it. Like I remember going into playoffs going, I'm feeling really good about how our team is feeling. It's not so much how we're playing.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we peak and have peaks and valleys. But man, I felt really good about how we were feeling. And I was like, this has a lot of staying power for long-term success. So I think my long-winded answer is I don't really know the exact turning point, but if I had to pick one out, it would be that Mercy game where we kind of put it all 40 minutes together and never stopped doing that.
No, that's smart. Scheduling opponents. You don't go into the tournament completely cold.
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of the higher seed teams, they get caught out by the other team who's played a game or two.
Yeah.
But that's smart.
So I have a question, and this is from one of your former players, one of my good friends, Asia McCray, because she wanted me to ask you this question because she was at the NEC championship game, and we just want to know, at what point in the game did you finally take a deep breath, and realize that it was over and you guys was going to win? Because when she seen you, you was still in the tense moment. Even when it was over, you still looked tense.
I'll tell you the exact moment. It was when there was 13 seconds left on the clock. 13. I'm not kidding. Because in my brain, then you know, like you're doing this too. Like we're watching all the end of conference championships, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just played a team. We had won, and I come home that night. I think we beat Merrimack. I come home that night. I'm just throwing a conference championship on TV, and I watch this team come back like 13 points in like a minute and 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh my God, it's March. Like anything can happen. So we're in that championship moment. It's the first championship game we have an opportunity to really win. Like we're in positioning ourselves to be in a great place. And I just watch the clock ticking down a little bit, and I see my players start to smile at around 1 minute. And in my head, I'm like,
No.
not yet. I just watched a team come back 13 points. We're only up by 12. Like, what's that? You know? And then like they start to come back a little bit again. And then I think at 13 seconds when they fouled for the last time, I took a deep breath and I turned to Candace, my coach, but former player, one of Asia's great friends. And I finally was like, holy crap, we're going to win this game. We're going to go to the NCAA tournament. Like, oh, because I think in that moment, you're just holding on to that thought of what could happen and what do you need to be prepared for. Like, I never want to let my guard down in that moment of like not being prepared. And I think at 13 seconds in my mathematical brain, it was like, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible for them to come back at this point. Like we can smile now. So that's the exact moment, 13 seconds. And if you go look, you'll see me smile while Amelia Wood is shooting a free throw, and you'll be like, there it was.
And I know you mentioned the NCAA tournament. You know, how did it feel, you know, going to California, especially first NCAA tournament experience as a head coach, and then going against Stanford University, which is a legendary coach If anybody don't know who Tara Vanderveer is, you need to look it up or watch the Dream Team Women's documentary on 30 for 30. Like, she's a coaching legend. Like, how did it feel going against her and realizing, like, what advice did she give you going forward?
Yeah, so the tournament itself was so exciting. I never in a million years would have thought we would go to California. Most of the mock brackets put us in Indiana. So I'm thinking, oh, we're going to go to Indiana. We're going to play like a first 4 game there. We'll probably end up playing Indiana. There'll be a 1 seed, right? And then the 3, like, Albany bracket gets announced. Vermont's playing UConn. Like, the Greenville bracket gets announced. There's another team that playing the Virginia Tech. And then the Indiana bracket gets announced. And it's not us. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to California. I turned to the coaches and all of a sudden there's the bracket announced. And it's like, oh my God, we're going to California on a charter plane. Like, this is bananas. 12 hours after we won our championship, we're on a charter plane to Cali.
Wow.
So it was, talk about the coolest NCAA experience you could ask for. Like, we didn't get on a bus to like drive somewhere. Like, we literally got on a charter flight. It was actually Chicago Blackhawks charter plane for us to go out to California. We landed, and just being in the environment of Stanford, like, is greatness. I mean, historic program, Hall of Fame, like, unbelievable coach. And she was so gracious. She came out before the first 4 game just to introduce herself, wish us luck, tell us how great we've done and, you know, how proud we must be in a first year experience. And as she's telling me that, I'm looking over her shoulder and there's like 25 NCAA tournament appearances by her team. I'm like, thank you so much, coach. Like, so it was really an honor to meet her. And she really does pay it forward. She's so gracious. She talked to some of my players even after our game, like playing against Southern was one thing, right? In that first 4 and making history and winning, it was amazing. Playing against Stanford, where, you know, their starting post player is out and their sub is a 6'7" freshman. Like, what are you supposed to do, right? So I felt like even though we lost against Stanford, it was a win across the board. And Coach Vanderveer had so many great things to say about our players and our program, and she does such an amazing job. So I couldn't have asked for a greater experience for the first time. It's the first championship I've ever won in basketball. Like, I've coached for 19 years, and I've never been part of a team that's won a conference championship to go to the NCAA tournament. So it was really special. I know our players thought it was really special. And the beauty of our players winning is that they're freshmen. So it's like they didn't know any better about how, like, it's hard to win in March.
Yeah.
It's freaking hard. And they just don't know any better now. So they're already talking about, like, back to back, let's do this, run it back. I'm like, okay, let's go.
You love the confidence, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love the confidence.
So this group of freshmen obviously played a lot. What was it like recruiting them to Sacred Heart and then starting a majority of them right away?
Yeah, we got commitments from them the summer before their senior year. We had been recruiting Amelia forever. Her sister is Kelsey. She's on the team. Very, very good player. Was getting recruited at higher mid-majors. And she just wanted to play with her sister. And I think she really liked the school and the staff. So we locked her in first. Second commit was Sierra Johnson, coach's daughter, played at a high level in Virginia. Like, just kind of a glue kid that does a little bit of everything, that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but she's so smart and, like, very vocal and confident as a freshman that she earned her way into a starting lineup really quickly. And Nye is an interesting situation. So we saw Nye really late, didn't have a huge history with her, found her on her Under Armour team in July. And my former coach, Ross James, comes up to me and he's like, yo, Mannetti, you got to come see this kid. She is special. And I was like, she's 5'3", no shot. Absolutely not. Like, she's too small. He was like, just do me a favor, watch her play. So I watched her play and I'm sitting next to him. I'll never forget. I was like, yo, she is so good. I was like, who's recruiting her? He's like, nobody you would think should be recruiting her. So she was under-recruited. She comes up on a visit. She is amazing. Like, parents love it. She loves it. Commits here. She comes to our meeting in the summer and tells our coaching staff, like, I really hope I get to play a little bit. I know I'm a freshman. I'm not really expecting a lot of minutes. We were like, what? You're a starting point guard. Are you crazy? So the experience was really fun because they're a great group and the talent is off the charts. So I think we hit the jackpot with our freshmen and they're all staying. So keep it rolling.
Okay. Speaking of recruiting, how different has it been with, like, you know, the new transfer portal rules? Did that really change anything for you? No.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wild, wild west. People are recruiting our players while they're playing for us. Like, They are. It's ridiculous. And now with this NIL, like,
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that too. Yeah.
I mean, you saw how LSU won. All those kids are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL money. Like, it's just money has changed the game.
Yep.
And so I think for us, we're not going to be able to compete with that kind of money, but we can compete with environment, experience, holistic opportunity, education. And I think we have something here at SHU that nobody else has, right? Which is able to win a league championship, great environment, great team culture. So I think we're in a good spot. But yeah, the transfer portal is bananas. It'd be a whole other podcast to get into it. It's so crazy.
I mean, we went into it a little bit in class, and we compared it to like free agency almost, where you could just plug someone over with more money.
Oh, these kids are going in the portal. There were 50 new kids in the portal alone. Like, there's going to be 1,500 kids in there. And there's 1,500 kids. There's only going to be like 900 spots to fill. Where are those other 600 going to go? So I think you have to be really smart about what you want.
Yeah, and once you put yourself in there, you can't go back, can you?
Depends on the coach.
Yeah.
Some let you back and some don't, but it felt like it is happening in real time. Like, if you're in the portal,
someone's in there.
It is happening in real time. Like, my coaches are talking to kids in the portal right now, like, commitments are happening in real time, decommitments. So you got to be on it. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does your AAU background, because you coached in Westport, I believe.
Yeah.
So how does that factor into your recruiting? Does it make it easier because you know the landscape of high school?
It does. That was one of the reasons I got hired at Hofstra as an assistant. I think I brought a really great recruiting pool of Virginia North of networking for coaches and players and just knowing the area. So I think that networking has helped me. And this is home, right? I grew up in New Canaan. I'm from this area. My whole family's here. So I think having these long-term relationships with these coaches over like 18, 19 years has been really great to have that trust and have them understand, we'll take care of their kids. Send them to SHU. We'll take care of them.
It's a nice place.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go ahead and, it's going to be off the wall question I want to ask you. So, Coach Mannetti.
Heard it all. Yeah.
It's two things I want to know. What is the pregame meal before every game? What is your go-to pregame meal? And what is the music playlist you always have to play before every game? Is it a superstition you have, or is it just normal routine?
So I actually am not superstitious at all. And people are blown away by that because I know so many coaches are superstitious. I like routine, but if I miss part of my routine, it doesn't really throw me off. So my pregame meal, to answer your question, is like whatever diet I'm on that day. Like, I'm just like, I got to look good in this dress. How much can I eat today? Right? Like, I think that's usually what I'm thinking about. But I don't eat a lot before the game usually. I'm a little bit of a ball of nerve. So I don't really have a pregame meal. But what I do listen to, I'm so boring. I love crime junkie podcasts. I love like Serial and like Up and Vanish and all these like crime podcasts. So I do have the one routine I do stick to is an hour before I have to go down to the locker room to start writing on our board. I do a whole makeup and hair routine in the bathroom. So we have suites in the bathroom and all four coaches like take over the bathroom areas. And so I do like this whole makeup and hair routine. I listen to my podcast. Sometimes I'll jump on the phone with like one of my friends, but I just take an hour to just turn my brain off and focused into the game. And then from there, it's like from that point, it's like, boom, right downstairs, do the locker room board, wait for the team to come down, pregame talk, upstairs, game starts. And so that's like how that last 3 hours before the game kind of goes.
So after the success you guys obviously had this season, what is next for SHU women's basketball?
They're already talking about back-to-back rings. Like we haven't even gotten our first ring yet. They're talking about a second. I think for us, we have to know, I told our players this, look, next year we're getting everybody's best game. There's not a doubt in my mind we're going to be picked very high in the preseason. And so this year we went through struggle. We were hungry. We had something to prove all the time. Our hashtag was no excuses, right? Like we talked about how nobody picked us, even to the last day. I showed them, they don't really understand like the betting lines,
yep.
But I showed them, I said, look, there's a 54% chance people are betting on FDU that they're going to win. Like still, we're here and nobody is ever picking us. Mm-hmm. So that was our big motivator. And I think this year we still have to have that chip on our shoulder. Like, oh, people think we won and it was a fluke. Like, oh, people still don't think we're good enough. We have to have that chip on our shoulder. We have to know we're going to get teams' best games be a little mentally tougher, and we have to do better in non-conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to play next year. We have the defending MAC champions on our non-conference, defending America East champions, defending CAA champions. Like this is not getting easier for us. We have 2 Big East opponents next year. Like, our non-conference is a monster. So like we have to just be able to compete and prove ourselves in the non-conference so that we can really be prepared to focus on these best games we're going to get in conference against us. So I think that's really where we have to go.
Are we going to see SHU UConn?
You
guys going to Gamble?
My prediction might be coming true. I definitely said it on the podcast.
Not if it's ever up to me. No. No.
I'll tell you right now.
She don't want to play UConn. I don't blame you.
Look.
Not if it's ever up to me. No. But in that NCAA tournament, maybe.
Now, look. My prediction was, I don't know who I need to talk to in athletics. I laid out the groundwork. I said they could play at UConn. I can get a couple busload of students. They're going to pay that ticket price. They go see that game. I know I would see Paige. I would see Paige and Lil Mama go against each other. It would be an epic matchup.
It would.
The headlines, I would love it.
It would. Actually, Gino texted me. I was so grateful. He texted me.
To flex.
He texted me right after our Southern game that we won in the first round. And he said, congratulations to you and your team. We're so happy for you. Keep it rolling. And so I screenshot his text and I sent it to our group. And my players were like, oh my God, Gino Oriama knows who we are. And I was like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's a fellow
That's
Connecticut.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Fellow Connecticut school, just unbelievable coach. Like I grew up watching UConn. So to share that with them was really cool. And truth be told, I know that would be epic and amazing, but I'm not in the cards next year. I don't think.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So I want to ask, when did you refer Sarah Pryor as Lil Mama? Or do you call her by a real name at practice when you getting angry at her? Because I know I seen you one time in practice when you was yelling at your players and I got scared. I was just looking through the window of my friend's office. I'm like, oh my God, that's Mannetti?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we have our moments, don't we? No, Nai's nickname is Lil Mama from home. So one of her coaches from home gave that nickname to her. Everybody in Baltimore calls her that. And the nickname kind of stuck. I started calling her that a little bit. Sometimes I call her Lil Mama. Usually it's just Nai because I'm yelling something on the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have our moments, right? I don't yell at her a ton. She does a really good job keeping everybody calm. I think there are some, if you ask Asia McCrae, right? Ask any of my former players, like there are some years, we got to yell all the time just to get our message across. This year, I realized I had to be really calm. We have a lot of young kids. You have Nai, who's a freshman point guard, captain. You have some transfers that are kind of trying to feel out the environment. Like I was pretty calm this year. And so I'm sure the one day you saw me was like, you probably just a handful of those this year, but that's not to say they won't be coming next year. But Nai's been pretty good. And Nai gets on her players too. Like she'll be the one yelling at them before I am, which is a nice little reprieve from that norm. So.
And do anybody on the team has like a good Coach Mannetti impression that you've seen? Because I know it's probably like some funny videos that they probably didn't show nobody, but they probably have like many impressions of you.
Oh, they'd ask anybody. We were doing them today. Like they ask anybody. They talk to me. They do my whole nail. I do this whole nail thing. I stomp my foot with my heels on. I throw clipboards sometimes. Like I pace up and down and shake my head a lot. And they do the bet. Like just come to practice. You should film them and do a whole TikTok. It's the greatest thing you'll ever see. We love to make fun of each other, but I could do impressions of all of them too. So,
Who's your best impression then?
When Nai and Big Sierra go at it, it's just like, it's the funniest thing you'll ever hear. Like, it's a lot of teeth sucking and like attitude and hair and hand waving and they go back at it. So I could probably impersonate them. They all have their really like ridiculous idiosyncrasies that you can just like make really funny. So we should do that. Alison, we should do a whole TikTok of team impressions and let's show everybody what everybody does.
I like that.
Yeah.
Inspired by Chris.
Yeah.
I like that.
You'll love it.
Oh man, but
That'd be funny.
I know you was talking about Coach Tara and Coach Gino. I want to go back to when the WNBA first started before, and you had the Dream Team in '96. What was that like living during that time, especially witnessing like women's basketball on the come up? How did that make you feel, as a young woman seeing that?
So you're gonna make me like reveal my age now, aren't you? Yeah.
Not too much. Not too much.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that.
Not a day over 30.
29 for the 15th time. It's great. No, so I graduated high school in 1997, right? That's when UConn started to go on that run. The Tennessee UConn epic battles used to happen.
Yeah.
Stanford was always a powerhouse. And the WNBA came into play. And so when I grew up, I had almost all male coaches that had ever coached me, whether it was baseball, mostly basketball. I don't think I had one woman coach in basketball until I got to college. My dad, right? Like I had all these male, I don't know if you would call them role models, but people that you want to emulate, right? Like Larry Bird was one of my favorite players. I was like, I want to be Larry Bird. You didn't hear little girls talking about how they wanted to be Cheryl Swoops, right? Like you didn't know about those players. And then the WNBA lands, boom, on the scene. UConn women's basketball and Tennessee become nationally televised. Now all of a sudden, instead of wanting to be like Larry Bird, you're like, well, I want to be like Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie. I want to be like Jen Rosati. I want to be like the Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird. I want to be like these UConn players, right? Like these are people that you can become and look up to and watch and learn and grow from. So I think women's basketball, the WNBA was a game changer. And look, I remember being in the Garden when nobody was there. It was a joke. People used to make fun of it. Now
They used to wear the little paper bags in their head.
yes,
Yeah.
like it was such a joke. And now, like, look at 25 years later. It's, I mean, how many people watched the national championship the other night? Millions.
Yeah.
It was the most viewed women's basketball game in history. It was the most attended women's basketball event in history. Like, the game has grown so much. And yeah, men's basketball started 75 years before us. So we have some catching up to do. But it was the whole evolution of women's basketball has been a game changer. And so when you think about when you're a little girl watching things on TV now, these little girls have role models. Nye is a role model, right? Amelia, role model. Jada, like all these girls are role models for these young kids. Like you can be this and do this and achieve this. And I think it's so special. So I'm glad I get to be a part of it, even if it's on later on in my experience, right? In my career. Like I still think about that little girl that watched Larry Bird on the couch and watched Michael Jordan when the 96 Bulls, right? Took it all. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is for real. This is unbelievable how much this has changed.
Women's basketball in general is, I think, growing mainly due to like the star power, because you can market these people so easily. Like we'll talk about the Caitlin Clark thing from the other night. We'll get into your opinion on that. But someone like her, you can market her so well to young girls. Be like, you can do this. Like you can be a national star. But with that question, what is your opinion on that little, we'll call it scuffle argument, whatnot that happened?
Look, I think we're focusing on things that don't matter, right? Like I think everybody's blowing this up to be
Agreed.
something it's not. And I don't think the refs really helped either. The refs did not do a great job like letting the game speak for itself. I don't think that people have done a great job not magnifying things like that. I think Angel Reese is a competitor. I think she talked and ran her mouth the entire season and backed it up in that championship game,
did.
right? I think Caitlin Clark is an unbelievable basketball player. Yeah. She has landed on the national scene as just the face of women's basketball this year, along with Angel Wright and some other players that have done tremendous jobs. So it's sports, it's competitive, it's rivalry. You think that if this was a men's game, people would care about those stupid hand gestures?
No.
Nope.
They wouldn't. And they wouldn't cut and paste them from 5 games ago, Louisville, to this game and call it the same thing. Like it's not the same thing. So I think everybody should focus on what matters. And what matters is LSU ran their mouth and backed it up, right? I think
They did.
LSU was the best team in the country this year. I think Iowa had an unbelievable run. I think there are 2 star players in those programs. In addition to other players too, like we haven't even talked about some of the other players that are on both teams. Like you watch some of the best women's basketball in history unfold in front of you 2 nights ago. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about hand gestures and silly things. So
I feel like this is where media is coming though. Like they want to focus on things that can sell a story, can get people to click, as opposed to like, oh, LSU played a really good game or Iowa played or whatnot, stuff like
I'm
that.
gonna say, don't take away anything from both of them. They played fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark averaged like what 30 points a game in the
She has
tournament.
like
It's
almost
crazy.
a triple double in the tournament. It's like ridiculous stuff.
41-point triple double. I was like, She's tough. So tough.
Tough,
So
right?
tough.
And both fun to watch. Like I
Some
would
of the
love
shots she makes, I'm like, who shoots that?
stupid good.
Who shoots
I
it though?
mean,
Like nobody shoots that.
Well, I'm watching some of the shots that who is that guy? Joey C from UConn
Mm-hmm.
made last night. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking to myself, well, Caitlin Clark did that 2 nights ago. Like, holy cow, like look at how far these games have come, right? It's crazy.
They really have.
I know.
Shout out UConn.
Shout
We're
out
not, we're not going
UConn.
to go into that today.
Shout out
but
UConn. I'm a UConn fan. I'm from Connecticut, so go UConn.
Yeah, that was a great game last night.
Go UConn.
So speaking of like the like good players, like who is the best that you ever had to coach against? Like in your opinion. And there's probably a long list.
There
but-
is. I'm trying to think of these high. So we've played a lot of really, really good players since I've been here. And then even when I was at Hofstra, like when I was at Hofstra, we played UConn.
Yeah.
Like that was bananas. Like we played UConn when I was at Hofstra with like 4 Olympians on it. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? But we've had great experiences against lots of different schools, Florida State, Iowa State. We played that had some WNBA players or players go on to the WNBA. I'm trying to think by name. I mean, Haley Jones, we just played against All-American, right?
Yeah.
Who was unbelievably good, right? So she was fun to watch in person. Like when I watched her teammate dunk it in warm-ups before we started, I was like, this is going to be a challenge, right? And then she comes like 2 seconds later and finger rolls it by the rim. And I'm like, well, what's my answer for that? But there's been a number of really incredible players, I think. We played against Kentucky players. It's hard to think off the top of my head because there's been a lot. But
Yeah.
just the levels, I was trying to explain to my players, like the levels within Division I are crazy, right? Like Stanford's Division I and we're Division I. It's not the same, right? It's just
It
not
really
the,
isn't.
It's just not
It's
the
really
same.
not.
Like when the 6'7" kid comes in from Stanford, I'm like, well, excuse me, where's our sub then?
Yeah, where's our 6'7"
where's
person off
where's
the
our
bench?
matchup for that, guys? So I think like our players in their experience now have been exposed to a lot of different levels within the game between our non-conference and our conference. And that's been really cool for me to watch them learn. Hey, like just because we're both Division I teams doesn't mean everything's the same. Like,
True.
yeah, there's a big world of basketball out there. And these players that we're going to play, you're going to see in the WNBA. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, we played against them. Like, that's pretty cool.
That's
right?
awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any of your players who you could see maybe going into coaching, maybe follow in your footsteps?
We have a couple. So Jayla Davis is, she's a coach right now. In the she did the So You Want to Be a Coach program, and she's now coaching at Gettysburg, looking to get into coaching. I know Olivia Tucker wants to coach. I know that Willisha Jackson wants to get into coaching. There's a lot of players that want to follow this coaching track, which is so cool. And I love it. I love that they want to stay involved and like be a part of women's basketball. So yeah, I'm good with kids that want to be. I think Sierra Johnson, our freshman right now, will get into coaching just like her dad. So I think that our coaching tree has expanded quite a bit, like whether it's mine or even
You
our
take the credit.
Well, I think our assistant coaches do a really good job building relationships and developing the kids' experience too. So it makes them want to pay it forward, which is at the end of the day is what we want to do as humans anyway,
Very true.
Yeah.
Chris, you got any more?
Is he back there? He must be down.
He's on the phone.
Oh, he's on the phone. Okay.
I'll go with one. Concordia. Obviously, you coached under the guy you mentioned before. I forgot his name. Sorry.
John
But
Dorrell.
is there any other coaches besides him that you would say you idolized yourself after, tried to be like?
So I'm really close with my high school coach, Mike Smeriglio, and he's really tapered back a little bit in his old age with how he was like Bobby Knight sometimes. Like he was crazy. He was high energy, like really intense, highly competitive, like old school. I like that kind of coaching because I need to be yelled at and pushed a lot. So like I don't mind when somebody is telling me I'm not good enough, I'm like, how to prove you wrong. So that's where I kind of started my experience with coaching. And then as I continued to play for different people, like my high school volleyball coach, Priscilla Schultz, amazing, totally different than Mike. She was like really confidence building and like great like teacher when it came to the game and like good strategist, and Mike was too. But I think when you coach and once you reach the place you get to, you have role models, but you take small pieces of everybody that inspires you with you, right? So whether it was the coaches I played for in high school or like my volleyball coach in college was great, or somebody that I worked under, right? Like, and learned from in my growth as a coach. I think you really are like a puzzle of little pieces of everybody that you take with you of like the do's and don'ts. Because how many times do you learn about what you don't want to do too?
That's
When
true.
someone is coaching and you're like, ooh, I definitely don't want that to be me, right?
Yeah.
Even assistant coaches, like I've had some great colleagues in the business that have taught me so much. One of them, I wanted to quit really bad my second year in college coaching. I just didn't think it was for me. It wasn't the right fit. And this guy, Faisal Khan, who was in the business for a long time, really good guy, great coach. He was like, if you quit, I'll never forgive you. Like you're going to figure it out. It'll be great. And 2 years later, I became a head coach here. And had he not really helped to build my confidence up a little bit and like inspire me that I could do it, I don't think I would be here. So I think sometimes people touch your lives in so many different ways, and you're inspired by so many different things that you like want to be and how you can pay it forward, that I think it's really special that you get to do this, you know, every day to kids and maybe be a little piece of their inspiration, right?
Yeah.
It's very true.
Coaching at Sacred Heart, is this your, you'd say, dream job, final destination, or, you know, is there another spot you're looking like maybe to get into a different level?
I'll go in there. Okay.
Yeah. No, people ask me this a lot. I've been here a long time, right? And we've been successful. So I'm really proud of what we do here. I have a great administration. You know, Bobby Valentine hired me. He's been an unbelievable support system over the last 9 years. Judy Ann has taken over, first female director of athletics, really empowering as a woman and a leader for us. Very supportive. The school's growing. Like if this is the time to be at Sacred Heart, like it is now, right? Like we are doing all the right things. And this is home. So like some people ask me all the time, like, is this a springboard? Like, why haven't you left the NEC yet? What are you doing? And I'm like, look, my high school coach was at my championship game. Like the grass might be greener in terms of money sometimes, but it's not greener in terms of your work-life balance. Like, what am I going to do? Go to Texas and be alone and coach a team? Like what else is there?
Sure.
And so I think for me, for right now, we're in a really good spot. I love it here. This is home. I get to see my family, my friends. They support what we're doing and the program and the team. I get to work for a great administration. I get to hang around great people like you and look at the community. Look at how unbelievable our school community is. So
It's true.
I don't know if this will be the final stop, but I do know I couldn't be happier to be here. And unless, there's some sort of generational wealth that presents itself as an opportunity, then I don't think you leave for something that might not be the balance that you have now,
Yeah, maybe Gino will come calling.
Maybe.
Assistant.
You never want to be the coach that coaches after Gino. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I was about to say, you do not want that on your
You
plate.
do not want that job.
It's like Kevin Ollie after Calhoun.
Yeah.
I mean,
they won a championship.
He did get
Yeah.
he did get a ring, but
You know what I think would be really cool? Like maybe in my last year ever of coaching, maybe just be like a director of ops for UConn. So I could just like chill. Not have to worry about scouts. I'll do your travel. I'd love that. Yes. Let's go get a ring. It sounds wonderful. I'll watch the All-Americans. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
It was
Thank
a great
you.
great
This is
time.
amazing.
Anthony, got any last thoughts?
no, you just got to make sure some of your players come on. Chris has been harping at that, so I think
Yeah.
we need to have that happen.
Oh, they are ridiculous. You will have the best time with them ever. They would have the most fun. So yes, let's make it happen.
Awesome.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, I'm Tom Bucciferro.
Anthony Conti.
Jess Mannetti.
Thank you guys for watching the Sports Aces podcast, and we'll be back later in the week for another episode.